Good morning, and welcome to Talk of the Town on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com.
We welcome you to Talk of the Town for this Tuesday, January 5th. I'm Gary Stevens. It's the first Tuesday of the month. We will feel the zeal with our Zeeland emphasis show. Between 10 and 11, the Master Gardener, Jan Musin from the Bryan Seed, will be joining us with the Yard and Garden Hour. Patty Vandenberg will be with us at the bottom of the next hour with what's new around Helen. We'll have some open line following the 11 o'clock news. But on this Feel the Zeal first Tuesday of the month, our first segment is usually with the man who is the mayor of Zeeland. Kevin Klynstra is in the other end of our Zoom connection this morning. Kevin, good morning and welcome back to WHTC.
Good morning, Gary. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, your family, and to all in Zeeland government as we begin a new year, and hopefully 2021 will be a lot better than 2020 in a lot of different ways, most notably having people getting together and, putting the outbreak behind us. But right now, we're in the midst of it, and government has to continue running, but has to continue running in a new way that's been this way since last March.
Yeah, I'm with you. I hope that 2021 is a lot better than what the last 3 quarters of 2020 was. We're looking forward to getting back to normal.
Now, if you got a question for Kevin Klynstra about the city of Zeeland, you'll be happy to answer it at 395-1450, 395-1450. Some municipalities and some entities have limited operations right now in terms of constituents can set up an appointment to be in the building. What's with Zeeland? Is it completely blocked off, or is it an appointment only situation if people need to have some services done that maybe cannot be done remotely?
Well, as far as the city hall, that you can come in and pay your tax bill or your electric bill like you did before. And you just have to have a mask on. If you have to see the city assessor, you can do that. And see the city clerk as well. So yeah, that part is fairly normal. But again, the mask is required. The library is curbside pickup only. So that is definitely different, but that's been working well. Zeeland was one of the first ones that started that, and it's catching on with other libraries. So that part is working well. Not sure how much longer that will last. Probably for sure until the 15th or the 18th, whatever the governor's last emergency order was. But it's definitely different, Gary, and again, we had a council meeting last night. It was by Zoom. I'm at City Hall along with our city manager and city attorney and city clerk. But other than that, everyone else is online.
Now, you can be able to do work remotely. We can do our conversation remotely. But to be honest with you, without the personal contact, without having, face-to-face contact or some of the things, the non-verbal body movement, sometimes you can be able to interpret that. It's kind of tough to be able to really have a full confidence meeting. I don't know. I'm just sort of thinking, Kevin, more than anything else, by not meeting in person, it takes something away from it.
Oh, yeah, I agree, Gary. I mean, Zoom works great for meetings, but again, that personal touch and the eye-to-eye contact that you have, and being able to shake somebody's hand, it just it's not the same. I'm over the Zoom meetings. I hope they're done soon, but even we had the chamber breakfasts that I would attend twice a month, and I miss those. That's meant for networking and getting to know new people and see what's happening in other areas of the city and in other cities. And you just don't have that now. So yeah, I miss it.
395-1450. If you have a question for Zeeland Mayor Kevin Klynstra, he'll be happy to answer it. Again, the number is 395-1450, area code 616. If you're listening to us online at WHTC.com and not in the immediate Holland, Zeeland area. Last night's meeting, I'm looking at the agenda, Kevin, and it looked as if it was, I hate to use the term routine, but it looked like it was a routine meeting, but there was a couple of bits you need to take care of.
Yeah, it was fairly normal. None of our meetings last a long time. We have our work study session beforehand where we take care of most of the details. And then when the regular meeting starts, it's fairly routine, like you said. But we did do, we decided that we were not going to have the restaurants and the takeout stores have to do their yearly report to the alcohol committee. So we thought we would waive that this year. I think the restaurants have had enough to go through this year where they don't have to hassle with that at the beginning of the year, although it goes pretty smoothly. I don't think it's that big a deal for them, but we thought it would, just to give them a break this year, and so they wouldn't have to do that. And hopefully they appreciate that. We had some minor things about our investments policy for our pension plan. The city is very fortunate that our pension plan is fully funded, and we decided that we would go a little more conservative in our investments to, you don't get the return, of course, but it also protects us in case the market would go down like it did in 2009 and 2008. At that time we were invested, we were fully funded as well, but we lost quite a bit, and it took quite a few years to make that up. So we do not want to do that again. And so we decided to invest a little more conservatively.
Along the lines of some of the routine items, Kevin, dealing with the liquor situation and the alcohol situation, and you and I, we go back a few years. Remember when the big discussion about allowing alcohol sales in the city of Zeeland was a very contentious issue, and it has been a number of years since that happened. But because of the fact that many of the establishments, yes, they reopened during the summer months, but many of the establishments that sold alcohol by the glass, they really can't do that right now because you don't have the indoor dining. You don't have, you might be able to serve them, in a patio type situation, but still, to waive that was to me a common sense thing, because for the most part, we didn't really have to maybe that long of sales to worry about this year. That's
correct. And with one of the pandemic orders, they did allow takeout of liquor by the glass. You could take it. That was one thing that they changed during the pandemic, at least. But yeah, that's very minor. They have that much sales with that. And so yeah, I think it was a no-brainer to give them a break this year.
Now, talking about revenues, and obviously the outbreak has really caused some issues in terms of what revenues do come into the city coffers, and how you try to formulate a budget for fiscal 2022, the fiscal year that begins on July 1st. And that process is going to start very shortly, and just like in Holland, where they have to guide the city manager which the priorities will be, what will be the most important things that the council would want to have. I would assume in Zeeland it's the same way. You want to give your city manager, Tim Klunder, an idea of which direction the council wants to go, and then he'll formulate a budget in that regard. And that process begins very shortly.
Yes, the end of the month, actually, we're going to meet the last Monday and Tuesday of the month, and get together with staff and with city council, and we'll have a goal setting session. That's always the first thing that we do, and we want to know what we would like to do for the year and what goals we have, and then we find out how much that costs, and if we can afford to do those things, and it's for the future as well. We've got short-term goals and long-term goals, and yeah, so we've got that, and we'll find out, what road projects will be happening in the next year and how much those will cost, and yeah, so I think one of the bigger things we'll be looking at is the snowmelt issue. If we want to go along with that or not. The Snowmelt Committee did meet last month for the first time since the pandemic started, and so yeah, that's still on the burner, that we would like to look at that and see how much that would cost, and get that in the budget sometime if we are going to do it.
Does it have to be sort of postponed a little bit because of the fact that we don't know about revenues still at this point in juncture, or can plans be made right now for such a big capital improvement such as the snowmelt?
That is a big capital improvement, but we did take care of a big part of it already. We did put the boilers in the Howard Miller Community Center, and we needed new boilers anyway, and we just upgraded them. So in case we do want to go a snowmelt, that is there. So at least that part is finished. So that was quite a big ticket item. And it looks like in this summer, at least, we will be putting the snowmelt around the city hall and the alley between the stores not city hall, at the community center, and do the alley project that we talked about before. And in the sidewalk from the Howard Miller Community Center to City Hall. So yeah, we've got that planned to begin this coming summer, and at least that will be the beginning of the snowmelt.
What other major capital things? I know you can't speak for the entire council, and obviously the session at the end of the month will be a very much deciding thing. But what are the major capital things would you like to see perhaps the city at least start embarking in during the 21-22 fiscal year?
Well, we've got, of course, the street projects that we have planned every year, and then we keep looking at if we are going to do a crossing on the business loop of the highway. And, that would be a fairly expensive project. And then we also have some phase 3 of the Huizinga Park addition that we're looking at, that see what else we want to do over there. And then along with the Cemetery and Parks Commission right now is looking at a master plan to see what we have to do with the rest of our parks in the city. And it looks like maybe Hoagland Park right now on the corner of Peck and Maple. We did tear a house down there, and we'll have to see once what we want to do with that, to extend the drive from the wastewater treatment plant to Maple Street, or make that park a little bigger. So we have that to look at as well.
You talk about tearing down the house. If you want to talk about a landlocked community, Zeeland to a certain extent is it. You don't really have a lot of land left that you can be able to do some things with them. There is some, but let's just say you're pretty much to the point where, all right, if we're going to do something, this one, we're going to have to take away from, if we want to do A, we're going to have to take away from B. Or am I being a little bit too pessimistic about land in the city of Zeeland?
No, you're correct, Gary. We are landlocked, and in our residential areas where we can build a house are getting few and far between. So when we do tear down a house, we look at it pretty carefully and see if it will disrupt the neighborhood, for one, and to see what we really want to do there. So I think the main reason we looked at the house on the Rich and Maple was because of the drive from the sewer treatment plant. We have big semis that come through there, and we thought it would be a little nicer that they have a more direct access to the business route. So that was one of the main reasons we bought that house. and it stood by itself. It was right next to the park, and and if we do anything with the crossing at over the business loop, it looks like that might be the area that we do it. So that was kind of in our master plan that we had thought about that for a while, and so it wasn't anything. It wasn't a knee-jerk reaction, we should say.
Not only housing, where the residential areas are going to be, and this is more of a zoning issue than anything else, Kevin. But if you want to do some expanding of the business district, you really can't do that much because of the fact that the residential and the business, unlike other communities, they butt against each other right very close. So you really can't do a lot of expanding without making sure that it doesn't do that much disruption to the residential.
That's right. That's right. We always have to have a fine balance there, and we like to have residential that is close to downtown. That seems to be the going thing for cities, that they have. It's a walking distance thing, and they want to have accessible sidewalks and easy access to downtown. So yeah, we don't want to tear houses down that are close to downtown, that they would kind of disrupt the whole thing.
Yeah, you want to make it accessible to the residents, but also make it accessible to the people who want to shop in downtown Zeeland, make it attractive and again accessible for those who may be outside of the area. Bring that revenue in. You really
Right.
can't argue about that.
I mean, a good example, we passed last night a tax abatement for addition to the building on the corner of Main and Centennial, and that the Wilsons own that, and they would like to have an addition to that building. And I mean, it used to be two old houses that were there, so we gave up the houses, but now there'll be a total of 9 apartments in there. So we gave up 2 residential houses to have a nice new building with commercial space on the main floor, and 9 apartments, eventually 9 apartments on the second and third floors.
I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that we could still look forward to in 2021 in a moment, but I do have a call, and I do want to get that to you. Good morning. You're on the line with the Zeeland Mayor Kevin Klynstra.
Yeah, there are 2 or 3 buildings still empty in downtown Zeeland. Has there been any movement on that? And what about the Elbow Room? Has that officially been sold or not?
Kevin?
What was the first question? I didn't hear that.
Some like 2 or 3 buildings are still vacant in downtown Zeeland.
Oh, yes. There's a couple that are under construction. And I think once the pandemic is finished, that you'll see some movement on that. They're kind of on hold right now. And I'm not quite sure about the Elbow Room, what's happening there. They haven't been open for several months, but yeah, I'm not sure what is happening there.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the call. 395-1450, 395-1450. And a lot of the decisions about handling vacant buildings, that's out of the city's hands. It's private property, but the city certainly would like to have full occupancy of all of its buildings, especially in the downtown area.
Yeah, and I think the person that owns them, they're always looking for tenants, and they know what our master plan is, what we would like to have downtown, and they're trying to get that. And I think once the pandemic is open and we get restaurants back into town, I think there'll be some movement there.
During council meetings or council briefings, sometimes with the staff as well, what about promotions? What can we look forward to as of right now in Zeeland? Can you sort of give us a little bit of insight as to what might be happening in terms of promoting the city? Obviously, the Heal the Zeal campaign continues during this outbreak.
Yeah, well, right now, if you want to go ice skating, the ice rink is open. Our synthetic ice rink is open across from City Hall, and you can rent skates from the library if you do not have skates. So that is there. February usually is our chili crawl that we have. but I'm not. I kind of doubt that's going to happen. I haven't heard any finalization on that. So then after that, it's usually Memorial Day. So and hopefully this year we will be able to have a parade and the ceremony at the cemetery. But yeah, it's everything's kind of up in the air, Gary. It's just it's nothing you could commit to right now. So
Yeah, that's one thing that, we all want to be able to find some certainty moving forward, and with something that we have not been enjoying, unfortunately, since March in a lot of aspects of life. Final thing, Kevin Klynstra, before we let you go for this January conversation on WHTC's Talk of the Town, how can people be involved with the process of the meetings, especially later this month, dealing with the goal setting and formulating ideas? Obviously, public input is definitely going to be one in that regard.
yes, and every meeting that we have is open to the public. So usually you can get in by phone and listen in, and we always have a time for public comment. So if they have questions, they can do it at that time. So yeah, there's ways to do it, and if you would like to do that, check out our website, and I think they'll explain how you can do that during our meetings.
Not only during the meetings, but also if you want to put comments ahead of time. Cityofzeeland.com is the website, and we will put a link to that website. We put the podcast of our conversation with Zeeland Mayor Kevin Klynstra on our webpage at WHTC.com in a few moments. Kevin, I want to thank you very much for joining us this morning on WHTC's Talk of the Town, telling us a little bit about what's going on in Zeeland. Wish you and all involved with Zeeland not only the happiest of New Year's, the safest of New Year's as well. And if all goes well, we'll do this again the first Tuesday in February.
Okay, Gary, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kevin Klynstra on Real News Now, 99.7 and 1450 WHTC.